Hello, everyone. And before we start with the main video, there is some breaking news that we just learned about after we finished the video, and I want to make sure you're aware of it. So one of the sources that we used and we showed you is a video from Arizona where a poll worker is making the public aware of issues with their polling systems and the alternatives that they are presenting. Now, we showed that video in full, and it is very clear. We are now hearing, and it's just being reported, that in Arizona, at the same location, there are threats for this individual who took the video to be arrested. And I think that's really important. This is a problem. Again, it takes away from our confidence in our elections, that someone is being threatened to be arrested for recording a poll worker informing the public of a problem with the election, with election systems and the alternatives that are available to them. So it's something that's newsworthy. They inform the public. The public is making it more widespread. This is something that the news media would do if they were on location. And now they're going to threaten the police? Why? If you're wondering, gee, Mike, well, what did you say in the entire video? Check it out. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is November 8th. In the United States, that is Election Day, Tuesday. And across the nation, people are going out to vote. Mostly. In most cases. But what we're going to address right now, before the polls stop, before the election is over, we want to go over how did we get to today? What are the predictions that we see going on? What are the issues that are important to you? And we're going to go into a bit of this across the nation. But first, we do want to mention, if this is the first time you're seeing our channel, we welcome you and we thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And, of course, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m., we do a live stream with you. We reach out across all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear your voice in tweets, in chats, in phone calls from anywhere in the world, because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to speak up about the issues that matter to you. It's not just an American right, it is everyone's right across the world, even if the internet overlords don't agree, even if your government may not agree. So we hope you'll join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that conversation. Now, with that said, let's talk about the election. The 2022 midterm elections have been and are pivotal. It is going to change the direction of America. We have long been talking about on this program the impact of the lackluster leadership under the Biden-Harris administration. It has led to Russia going into the Ukraine. We see Iran helping Russia with drones and rockets. We have seen Saudi Arabia and OPEC cut oil, increasing energy costs. We see a recession that is going on. We see inflation that is continuing to rise. A global food crisis with 30 to 40% less food in the world. That's not even talking about China and its actions against Taiwan. That's not including the record 65, I think the last count is, of missiles fired by North Korea over South Korea towards Japan, threatening our allies, destabilizing the peace in the Southeast Asia region. This has all happened under the Biden administration in the last roughly 22 months. And the 2022 midterm elections will decide if we continue down this path or if there is some changes that can be made. But we have to ask the question, how did we get to here? How did this happen? Well, we on this channel believe that everything really started back in May of 2020. We knew the direction that the nation was going in. We saw that when Joe Biden appeared on the program The Breakfast Club, and he was talking with its host, Charlemagne, And he told everyone, well, I'll tell you what, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, then you ain't black. That's an incredible statement. It's an incredibly racist statement that Joe Biden is the determinant. He gets to determine who is black based on their politics, who, not their skin color, not their characteristics as an individual, but because of their politics, and more importantly, whether or not they toe the line and are Democrats. Well, that decides your racial existence. That's pretty insulting. And it wasn't a one-off. Joe Biden was supported by many, many Democrats and many people around the nation based on the fact that he wasn't President Trump. And they ignored the issues that we saw, many of them racist, like the 1994 crime bill, and also the statements by Joe Biden before the election. But it didn't stop there, because after the election, well, then we had Joe Biden, as fact-checked by Snopes, when Joe Biden appeared on a CNN town hall with Don Lemon, and he said to the crowd that black people don't know how to use a computer. He literally said that. He said blacks and Hispanics, minorities, don't know how to use computers, which is incredibly insensitive and insulting. And even Snopes had to mention that Biden noted that many people in Hispanic and African American communities, particularly in rural areas and inner cities, don't know how to find the necessary information online to register for and receive their vaccinations. These are the same people who were able to go online and find out where they needed to go vote. These are the same people who used online services to donate to BLM and Antifa during the riots of 2020. These are the same people who went online and donated to Democrats across this nation, but yet they don't know how to use the internet, and they don't know how to register and find things online because they're hesitant to obey a mandate that today we now know isn't useful, whether it was the masks or even the claims by Joe Biden about the pandemic vaccine. We know for a fact that masks didn't work. We know for a fact, unlike what Joe Biden had promised Americans, that if you get the jab, well, you still could die. You can still catch the pandemic. You can still transmit the pandemic. But if you were hesitant in 2021, Joe Biden, if you're black or Hispanic, well, then you were the problem. You weren't smart enough how to use the internet. It's rather insulting. But it went even further. We remember that in September 1st of 2022, a year after Joe Biden abandoned 5,000 Americans in Afghanistan to this day, a year after Joe Biden ran away from Afghanistan, leaving the Taliban with an entire army of weapons and money. 1 year after, a year to the day, Joe Biden appeared in Philadelphia, cloaked in red, surrounded by Marines, to tell people that if you do not obey, if you have questions, as per the First Amendment allowing you to do so, well, then you are a problem. If you believe that America needs to be strong and show strong leadership and our domestic issues must be addressed first, well, then you are an extremist. You are bad. You may not remember that image, but you might remember the Dark Brandon image of this emperor trying to dictate to the people and to force people to do things they don't want to do. In many states, this led to the death of thousands of people. In New York State, 16,000 people died in nursing homes because of the mandates given by Joe Biden and followed and adopted by now disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo, a darling of the left for most of his time in New York State, as well as Governor Newsom, with some estimated 6,000 people that died. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who had some 4,000 in Michigan that died in the nursing homes, following the mandates, the orders that came from the Biden-Harris administration. But that isn't it. You see, once we had Joe Biden make his what we call the Reichstag speech in Philadelphia, well, after he said that, he motivated individuals like Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan out of Ohio. He is a Democrat who is running for re-election. And Representative Tim Ryan said that if you are in the GOP, well, you're an extremist and we've got to kill. Let me quote him directly. Representative Tim Ryan, this was on September 13th, 2022. He said, quote, "The Democrats aren't right on everything. And I'm willing to sit down and have conversations about how we can move out of this age of stupidity." He said on Morning Joe, "Some of those answers will come from Republicans, not the extremists that we are dealing with every single day. We've got to kill and confront the movement. But working with normal mainstream Republicans, that's going to be really, really important. So if you aren't a mainstream party line Republican following the dictates of Mitch McConnell, then you are a problem. You are the issue. If you believe that we need to focus on the First Amendment to allow people to have speech like this program, then you are the problem. If you don't believe that the government can micromanage your health care to decide what you must put in your body and when, then you are the problem. If you don't believe in open borders, you are the problem. That's what we have heard from Representative Tim Ryan, a run-of-the-mill average Democrat. This is the centrist Democrat view after listening to Joe Biden give his Reichstag speech demonizing more than half of Americans. And when Tim Ryan made these statements to kill Americans, to kill a movement of the First Amendment, of free speech, well, he was heard. And that resulted on September 22nd, a week later, we see that a man admitted that he killed an 18-year-old kid, ran him over with a car because that kid was a Republican, because that kid had a different opinion, because that kid wasn't a Democrat. And of course, this news story was well suppressed throughout the entire nation. Not many people heard about it. Fewer paid attention. It's kind of like with the Brooks trial, where the Waukesha driver ran over individuals in a parade because he was a black supremacist. Because we have been told you cannot object to black supremacy, to the BLM model, to this progressive ideology. You can't object to it. And so we didn't see news about that trial. We didn't hear about the news of the 18-year-old that was killed just about 2 months ago. It's really terrifying. So we believe that what the 2022 midterm election, it's not just about the economy, which is in a recession, even though they changed the definition of a recession to hold off that idea until afterwards, after you vote. Then they will admit it. It's not just about the fact that energy prices have skyrocketed, just like President Obama promised would happen, that we had to necessarily skyrocket electricity because of climate change. No, these things go back in time. We've seen that they have been leading up to what we're seeing today. And so the election isn't just about the bad oil and energy policies of the United States. It's not just about the rampant spending that has caused inflation. It's not just about the lack of respect around the world that has led to a destabilization of peace. No, we've been seeing that this has been happening because Americans are being divided and they are being split and they are being demonized. And we see that on the ballot right now. Let's take a look at what we see in West Virginia. We talked about, and one of our audience members mentioned to us, what did we think about the West Virginia Amendment 2 proposition that is on the 2022 ballot? We said we agree with it because it merely gives the right to the American people and their representatives elected into office the opportunity to change the law, to lower their taxes, to encourage small business. And yet, we're told that's a bad thing to do. Lowering taxes, encouraging small business, allowing small businesses to potentially grow. That's a bad idea. Again, what's on the ballot in West Virginia is the opportunity, not even the law, the opportunity to lower taxes. Something that the governor, the state legislature may even vote down. But that's the kind of thing we're seeing in the 2022 midterm elections. People are being denied or told to deny opportunity. You're supposed to toe the line. You're supposed to obey. You're not supposed to question. Even if it's something like crime in New York State, you can't question that. When Kathy Hochul says crime isn't a problem in New York State, which she said just a week ago, and yet every bit of data that we have shows that crime, violent crime, and gun crime has increased, even as they have promised us that they would lower that. Remember, Kathy Hochul, New York State Legislature, the New York State Senate, the New York State Assembly, they voted and passed a law in 24 hours to overturn the Supreme Court that said you have a right to defend yourself, that women have a right, a 5'1", 110-pound woman has the right to be armed to defend herself against a 6'2", 300-pound man. But Democrats say, no, that's not fair. No, you can't do that. You have to rely on the police that they have defunded in 22 cities, which has led to the crime wave that we're seeing right now. That they are trying to release criminals. This is from John Fetterman, who has long said he wants to release at least a third of the prisoners in jails. These are criminals who have committed murder and violent crimes in many cases, and he wants to release 1/3 of them. He said that when he was more eloquent before his stroke, which has now disabled him and left him incapable of having communications to actually do the job of a senator that he's running for. And so we should see John Fetterman, if it were any other time period in America, he would step down from the election. But now we see that Democrats are telling us you have to vote for him because you cannot question his ability to understand and to communicate, the key elements necessary for an elected office. But that's not just where it ends, because we've also seen individuals like Josh Riley, where we brought up his supporters actually being racist, sexist, ageist, and homophobic, putting that out on Twitter before Elon Musk took over, and actually promoting this and not being punished by Twitter because it is partisan. And Josh Riley, running for the New York 19th District, had nothing to say about it. He was perfectly fine allowing an individual to use racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic language and attacks against someone who has spoken out against his campaign. Someone, that's me, who has raised questions and asked questions for over a year from Josh Riley and has yet to receive a single answer. The 2022 election is about what's on the ballot, as an example, in New York State, where we have the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act that we reviewed because of one of the members of the audience asking us about this. And in fact, there isn't a single job that would be created. New York State already leads many countries in reducing climate greenhouse gases. Already, we beat most countries. The United States leads the world in reduction of greenhouse gases. We have done the most. All of Europe and the United Kingdom combined does not match the reductions made by the United States and continues by the United States. And yet, and New York State is one of the leading states for this change, for this leadership in the world, and yet New York State wants to spend $4.2 billion to do it again. We're already doing it. We're already successful at it. And now on the ballot, they are asking for even more money for something that they could not pass any other way, something that is not necessary. In fact, we believe that it is a payoff to special interests to pay them back for the donations that they have made to Democrats throughout this state and throughout this nation to support them in commercial after commercial that you have seen throughout this election period. It is a troubling and difficult time. These are the things that have led up and are now occurring in the 2022 election. That's what's on the ballot. Illegal immigration, that open border in our southern open border that has allowed 5 million illegal aliens to enter our nation, to overwhelm our southern states. And it's so bad that when just 50 illegal aliens were sent to Martha's Vineyard as a statement of protest and to show the rest of the nation the kind of impact that is happening every day in Texas, New Mexico, our southern border, those illegal aliens were ejected. They were deported from Martha's Vineyard within 24 hours. Those very same Democrats, like President Obama, with their homes on the beachfront, one of the richest locations in all of the United States that have all of the resources necessary to take care of thousands, if not tens of thousands of individuals, when 50 illegal aliens showed up, they had to be removed instantly because Democrats believe it's your problem, not their problem, and their elites, their leadership will not bother to have to be like average American citizens, have to deal with the issues that average American citizens have to deal with. That's what we saw in Martha's Vineyard. That's what's on the ballot. These are big issues, and they are important, and they are making a difference. Now, we've been talking about a lot of these issues, and I do want to address a couple of things. Right now, affecting the election is the fact that we are hearing Democrat after Democrat that are telling us either the issues are things that we don't think are issues. They're telling us that abortion is the issue, that climate change is the issue, that if you have a problem with those issues, if you think that the economy is more important, that crime is more important, well, then you are the problem. And they have suggested over and over again that the election could somehow be affected negatively. There could be errors that could occur because Republicans aren't obeying. Here's an example. This comes from, we received this from one of our sources. This is, as we believe, from the University of Arizona. This is for students to tell everyone to go out and to vote, but more importantly, to tell people that they should contact the FBI if someone is having a question. They say in here, if you see anyone attempting to canvass, harass, intimidate, or otherwise be a pain in the ass at a polling site, report it to the FBI. And they provide links for the FBI. Now, I want to focus on this. They're correct. If someone is canvassing, that is illegal. Harassment is illegal. Intimidation is illegal. Absolutely. You cannot do that. We agree with that. But being a pain in the ass, what does that mean? How do you quantify that? So that means that if I happen to be black and someone is standing in front of me and they're white and they don't move down the line fast enough for me to be, for my feelings, does that mean they're being a pain in the ass? Does that mean I need to call the FBI? Is that intimidation? What if someone is having a conversation and it's a little bit loud in the line before I can get to vote? Are they being a pain in the ass? Maybe they're having a conversation about why they're voting with their friends, why they're going to vote, and they're talking about crime. Is that intimidation? Is that something the FBI needs to get involved in? What if people are talking about the different candidates with their friends in that line, or someone asks them how they're going to vote and they have a difference of opinion? Is that intimidation, harassment? And I'm not talking about shouting this. I'm not talking about campaigning. I'm talking about I'm talking to my friend standing next to me, and the person behind me can hear it, or the person in front of me can overhear our personal conversation. Is that suddenly going to be considered intimidation? Because that's what the University of Arizona students apparently seem to be saying on Discord. So these are some of the problems that we are seeing that are happening right now today. And they're big issues. Absolutely. And what has been the result in Arizona? What are we seeing happening in Arizona that we are seeing in many other states around the nation, which we're going to address? Well, here's a video that we're seeing that is reported to be in Arizona at the Anthem Outlet Mall. This is part of Phoenix. And this is what we are hearing, and this has been reported by the New York Times as well.
Of course, I know everybody wants to make sure that it reads and everything is fine.
Can you repeat that?
I can promise you.
Can you start from the beginning and repeat that?
So what happens is we have two tabulators. One of the tabulators is not working, okay? The other tabulator is taking about 75% successful. So 25% of them are being misread, and it could be a printer issue, or it could be the tabulator itself.
So after years of telling us about the issues in elections, telling us that elections are the most secure they have ever been, we have seen that now, on the election day, something we've been prepared for, we're running into issues with tabulators and we're having systems that are down. In Arizona, one of the hotbed locations in the United States for elections, with Kari Lake, someone who has been massively suppressed by the mainstream media. And suddenly today we're seeing multiple reports that are coming out saying they're just not working, that 25% of the votes are not being read. They don't know. And in fact, this is affecting people massively. I mean, watch what the rest of the video says.
It's misread. You have an option to put it into what's called box 3, and it gets read, whether it goes downtown and gets read manually, or whether it gets refed into our tabulator.
You don't want to adjudicate.
They get read,
No.
okay? So no one's trying to deceive anybody.
Of course not. Not on election day. That would never happen, right? No, that would never happen.
So choices are, you guys.
Question.
Sure.
If I get up there and that happens to my ballot, can I take my ballot with me and go somewhere else?
You do not leave the premises with a ballot. Sorry, and there's not like you can go
Because I don't trust to go in a box. The box may never make
No,
it down there.
no
That
way.
happens all the time.
The choice is.
I'll come back.
So when a voter asked a question, she's in line and she's saying, okay, if you cannot read my ballot, if my ballot cannot be registered, can I take my ballot and bring it to the Board of Elections so that I can be assured that my ballot will be counted, my vote will be counted? And the answer is no. We're going to put it into another system in another place, and it will be counted. They're saying they're going to count it, but she doesn't trust that because that's an alternative system that isn't the normal process. So she has a lack of faith. And given what we have seen in conversations since 2016, with Hillary Clinton saying in 2016 that she didn't think it was a valid election, and we have seen that continue going forward, that Democrats have questioned or not questioned elections depending on whether or not they have won in 2016, in 2020, and going forward. And I will prove what I am speaking about there. I have a specific race, 2018, that I want to speak about. But because there is a lack of faith in our election system, this voter was denied the opportunity to do what she was sure would be a secure way to provide her vote. Does that sound like that's helping people feel more confident the more that people are hearing about these kinds of things? Because this is what the 2022 midterm election is about. It is about our confidence and faith in our government. It is about our trust that our votes, which are our voices, will be heard, that they will be properly recorded. And I know many states are working on that. I know many states are working on that. But we are being told over and over again that if you have questions, you are the problem. You have an issue. I'll give you an example from Twitter by Tristan Snell, who is a blue check. Currently, I guess he's paying $8 for mainstreet.law. He is a lawyer and a mid-sized business owner who prosecuted Trump University in New York. Okay, so we know who he is. He's a leftist lawyer. Fantastic. And Tristan, who is a blue check, says Trump endorsed Lee Zeldin. Trump raised money for Lee Zeldin. Trump will expect Lee Zeldin to do whatever Trump wants. Make no mistake, a vote for Zeldin is a vote for Trump. Well, here's the thing, and I pointed this out 1 hour ago. Biden, Obama, and Clinton have all stumped and promoted Kathy Hochul, the appointed governor of New York State at the moment. They all raised money for Kathy Hochul, exactly like Trump did for Lee Zeldin. They expect Kathy Hochul to continue to obey the party line politics that have been around since Joe Biden took the White House. You know, like her position on the pandemic and the pandemic vaccine mandates, which resulted in 34,000 doctors being fired. The same kind of mandates that in New York City have been overturned by a court, which is requiring that all of the city employees fired because of the mandates, because of the emergency powers of Kathy Hochul, they have to be rehired because it was unconstitutional and an overreach of power. But that's okay because she's a Democrat. Crime is up in New York State, as it is around the nation. Inflation is up, as it is around the nation. We have less doctors in this state, as in many Democratic states around the nation. Illegal aliens are flooding into New York, so much so that Eric Adams, the self-declared practical progressive, as he said on CNN, had to ask for $1 billion in your taxes to be used for 17,000 illegal aliens that came into New York. By the way, there are estimated some 800,000 illegal aliens in New York City at this second. 17,000 were sent from Texas, and because of that, he wants $1 billion to be able to take care of these illegal aliens at twice the income level of American citizens' average income. Average American makes about $33,000 a year, depending on which source you use. And Eric Adams wants to pay and use your taxes to spend $62,000 per illegal alien. He's going to treat them better than he treats people in American citizens in New York City. See, he has Trump derangement syndrome. He's focused on President Trump, someone who isn't on the 2022 election ballot. Matter of fact, Democrats are obsessed with President Trump in the 2022 election. He's not on a single ballot anywhere in the nation. But that's one of their focuses because they're worried about President Trump in 2024. But that's not the election we're in. How about something a little different? 23 hours ago, Chuck Schumer, who's up for re-election against a black Republican, Chuck Schumer says, for MAGA Republicans, for Make America Great Again Republicans, what's the problem with making America great? Apparently, in 2022, in the midterm elections, there is a problem with wanting to make America, your home, the greatest that it can be. That focusing on America and dealing with domestic issues is a problem, according to Chuck Schumer and Democrats seeking to be elected. He says, Make America Great Again Republicans. This has always been about abortion, illegal everywhere in the country. The number one issue in America today is the economy. The number two issue is crime. That is everywhere, whether you're talking about energy bills, gasoline, which is up, still up from where it was in January of 2021, whether it's talking about the cost of lettuce or butter, which is a shortage, baby food, which there's a shortage, meat and eggs, which are up 30-40% a piece. That's what most people in America and in New York State are focused on. But Chuck Schumer wants you to think it's about abortion, which is legal in New York State. In fact, a couple of years ago, the Democrats in New York State passed late-term abortion. That is, abortion up to the moment of birth is legal in New York State. Never changed. Nothing has changed with that. But Chuck Schumer wants New Yorkers to think that is on the ballot. It is not. Abortion is legal in New York State, whether we like it or not. Late-term abortion at the moment of birth is legal in New York State, whether we like it or not. It's not on the ballot. But Chuck Schumer wants to distract you. He goes on to say they want to enact a national abortion ban. That has not been stated by anyone that I am aware of. There is no one who said there should be a national abortion ban. Whether you agree with that or not is a different question. That's an issue that has to go through Congress. That's an issue that has to go through the American people. That's not on the ballot in 2022. He goes on to say they want to punish women and doctors for carrying them out, for having abortions. Except they also, Chuck Schumer again ignores that Kathy Hochul punished doctors for not obeying a mandate from the government that said that pregnant women must get the jab, whether they want it or not. That the government was saying they could micromanage your health. He wants to ignore that statement. He wants to ignore that fact. Oh yeah, Democrats have already punished doctors and nurses and healthcare workers in New York State and around the nation. They have already done that for daring to ask questions and to not obey. And he's saying that this is a Republican issue. He says Democrats are fighting for the right to choose. Except you don't have a right to choose, because when the government made a mandate, you were expected to follow. And we heard Joe Biden himself say that you, the unvaccinated, were the problem. You were the issue, not the fact that the vaccine did not stop the disease, not because the vaccine still allowed for transmission, according to Pfizer, in their international discussions. They've admitted that. It didn't stop you from getting the pandemic. It did, for some people, reduce it. But then again, there's also side effects that we still don't know clearly what they are, that are affecting tens of thousands of Americans. And yet he's saying you were given the choice. Democrats didn't give you a choice. They said obey or you lose your job. That negatively impacted the health care of millions of Americans. But Democrats didn't care about that. They wanted you to obey. So what's on the 2022 election? Your choice, your freedom, the economy, crime, illegal immigration. These are all issues that are actually on the ballot. Not that it wants to be talked about, but we know there are problems. As I just showed you, there's a problem in Arizona. We know that, and it's being reported by the New York Times. Well, there's also Axios, who are now reporting that there are ballot issues in Tennessee. At least 3 counties are mentioning that there are ballot issues there. We're seeing problems across the country. And they seem to be issues dealing with, the machines themselves in many cases. Some are saying that they don't have enough paper. Maricopa County is another location, again, Arizona, where we're seeing that voting machines, 20% of polling locations are having issues. This is a problem in an election that we are told is absolutely not a problem. And you're saying, well, Mike, that's Arizona, that's Tennessee, but there's also problems that are occurring in Luzerne, in Pennsylvania. For some reason, in the most secure elections ever, where people have been prepared and been preparing since 2020, there are problems throughout Pennsylvania, in Dorrance Township, Dallas Township, Luzerne County. There are problems with the voting. It's hard for people to vote. Can you understand why people have a lack of confidence? Why that woman left the line in Arizona? Because she wanted to wait until she was assured her voice would be heard, her vote would be counted. Is there any wonder why there's questions about trust and faith in our government when we have Democrats that are distracting people from the issues they know are important, well, it doesn't end just there. In fact, let me show you this image. This was sent to us by a voter in Broome County in New York State. And this voter, a registered voter of New York State, a New York State citizen, an American citizen, this individual is going to do a mail-in ballot. Doesn't matter what the reason is. They used the opportunity to do a mail-in ballot, and this registered voter was sent this ballot from New York State, from the Board of Elections. You know what's wrong with this? There's no other election. It only has the United States Senate for Charles Schumer and the Republican Joe Pinion, and it has the New York 19th District, the Southern Tier, a race between Josh Riley and Mark Molinaro. Again, Josh Riley, we've already addressed several times on this program, and I did earlier. But that's it. Where's the governor's race? Where are the state and local races? Why are they missing from that election ballot? This is yet another error that we're seeing, another problem in the election process, another thing that is taking away people's confidence. Now, we do want to also mention that we spoke directly to the Broome County Board of Elections today, and we spoke with them about this ballot. We can tell you that there have been 17 ballots that were put out in error, that were mail-in ballots that were sent out, that there were errors with that, and those individuals received FedEx packages to correct it. That the errors are not widespread in Broome County, at least. We can't speak to the rest of New York. And that some 6,000 mail-in ballots were sent out throughout the state and have been getting collected. And we believe that somewhere around 90-95% of them are coming back in. That's what I have heard today from Broome County Board of Elections approximately 2 hours ago. So there is that as a confidence, and that's a good thing. But I don't know how much confidence we can have when the National Guard had to activate in 14 states throughout the nation. For the midterms, they had 7 states that they had to activate. There are 14 states at this moment. We know that because we've heard that from the Army. The United States Army itself has put out this release as of November 7th, yesterday, from the National Guard Bureau, telling us that they are activating their cybersecurity defenses to protect the election. We know that the National Guard has been activated in Colorado, in Connecticut. We know that they have been activated in North Carolina. Gee, do you notice something that's starting to be a trend here? We know that they've been activated in Washington State. Gee, do you notice there is a prevalence of Democratic states in Illinois? Those are just a couple of the states. Do you notice how there is a consistency here? We're hearing more and more stories about swing states and states that are Democrat-leaning where there are issues being reported on a regular basis over and over again. Does that make you feel confident? Does that make you feel secure? Does that make you feel like you have trust and faith in our government? A government that's told you that if you don't vote the right way, you're not black, you're not Hispanic, that you're too dumb to understand how to use the internet, too dumb to understand how to ask questions, that you don't deserve to get answers, that you have to be told what are the issues affecting your life, and the government has to micromanage your health. Does that make you feel more confident about the election? I want to make sure it's not just isolated. So we've been talking about what we're seeing in Ohio. We're talking about what we're seeing in Ohio. We're talking about what we've seen in Arizona. We've seen in Pennsylvania that there are problems. There were questions asked in New York, which we were able to get answers for. But that's not just it. I wish those were the only places that we were seeing that these things were problems. But let's be very clear. It's also in Georgia. Matter of fact, according to MSNBC, on November 7th, Stacey Abrams said on the Joy Reid program, in the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger are hard at work denying access to the right to vote. People are being denied the right to vote, targeting with almost surgical precision the most vulnerable voters and hoping no one notices. This is Stacey Abrams saying that black voters are being suppressed. This is what she said on MSNBC. Is there any evidence of that? Is there any proof of that? Can we trust the source? Now, you have to remember, Stacey Abrams is the same person who in 2018 refused, in fact, up to this day, has refused to concede the 2018 Georgia elections where she lost. Remember, she was alleging that there was a problem with the elections. She said there was a problem. Even the Washington Post had to highlight that she was spinning the facts in a firewalled article. But they even admitted this, that she is wrong. In fact, the New York Times in 2019 noted that Stacey Abrams was saying in 2019 that she won the election. She's an election denier. So can we trust the credibility of Stacey Abrams in 2022 when she's talking about voters being suppressed? What we see here is black women are leading the drive in record early voting in Georgia. Now, this was published on November 7th. This was reported that there have been 2.5 million votes cast as of Friday in early voting, and black women have been leading the vote in Georgia. Now, I have to wonder, who's she talking about? Who is Stacey Abrams talking about that's being denied the ability to vote in America? Because in every single state, everywhere across this nation, we see that black people vote about as much as anyone else. They're registered to vote about as much as anywhere else. In Texas, there is a 1% difference between white voters and black voters in being registered and voting. That is a fact. We know that there is record turnout in Georgia. That is a fact. And yet Stacey Abrams is saying that someone's being denied? Does that seem like emotional manipulation? Does that seem like they're trying to gin up an argument to change the discussion from the things that people are actually worried about, the election, things that people are worried about like crime? Are they changing the conversation because Democrats have demonstrably failed in every single aspect since the Biden administration has taken over in January 21st of 2021? Is it that they're trying to make you feel like Republicans are worse when the facts show us that Democrats have failed, that they are being worse, and that they're using women and people's race, ethnicity against them to say, if you question this, you're the problem. I don't care who you vote for. I don't. You can vote for anyone that you want to vote for. I'm voting for Republicans. I'm a conservative Republican, and I vote for Republicans overwhelmingly. Why? Because I think that's the best candidates that are on the ballot. And I'm voting for the initiatives that reflect my values, which is why I will not support the clean air, clean water, green environmental jobs proposal from Democrats in New York State. Because it's not in the best interest of the American citizens, it's in the best interest of special interests with a political agenda. That's how I'm going to vote. You can vote any way that you want to. I only ask, have a reason, not an election ad, not a tweet from Stacey Abrams, not a threat from Tim Ryan, not because Joe Biden threatened you and told you that you're a domestic terrorist if you ask questions, just because Kathy Hochul threatened your job if you don't obey mandates that she has put in place and reversals of the Supreme Court because she is an empress with emergency powers that have never ended. So you can vote for whomever you want. I believe the evidence, the facts, not my personal truth, the truth, because the truth is empirical. It doesn't matter who looks at it. the truth and the facts. The empirical data tells us Democrats have failed, and most of America has consistently said in poll after poll, they want to change the path. And that doesn't mean playing tricks like going to and standing in a line and calling the FBI because someone had a conversation with their friend in a line. It's not because suddenly all machines are breaking down across the country and questionable ballots are being sent out in mail-in ballots. America wants change. In fact, I want to show you one final thought that I have. And then I'll give you a prediction. I want to show you one final thought and then I'll give you a prediction. This is something that I said on Minds, and I want you to see this. And I put this out 2 hours ago before I did this video. I said, don't forget to vote today. Your vote is your voice. Be heard. If for some reason you can't vote, you can't find yourself voting for Republicans, but recognize that Democrats and their policies have failed, you can vote Libertarian, or you can write in a name. Seriously, you can write in your name, a cartoon character, a dog, you can name anyone, and it will still count. And it still matters if you do, because the only people who are telling you not to vote are people who have an agenda. Seriously, if you hate all the candidates on the ballot, feel free to virtue signal and write in Killua Zoldyck or Ed Elric. Yeah, I know, those are anime characters. They're also Japanese. There you go. You're promoting and virtue signaling because you're supporting minorities. But if those names are too hard to spell, try Roy Mustang. Yes, another anime character, but go with him. If you need to vote for a woman, even though you may not be a biologist, vote for Ellen Ripley. Again, it makes a difference. If 5% of the vote showed up as Ellen Ripley across this nation, it would tell Democrats and Republicans that they need to do better. They need to have better candidates. They have to have better policies. They need to have plans. They must be effective and efficient. If you don't agree with anyone on the ballot, if you think the nation is going the wrong way with Republicans and or Democrats, vote Libertarian, write in a name, write in Ellen Ripley, write in Roy Mustang. Let the politicians know they have to do better and they have to be efficient and they have to be effective. Because it is always better to do that than to not vote and have no voice. Because when you have no voice, you accept the voice that is heard. That means you go down the path someone picked for you. So I absolutely tell you, yes, I believe Democrats have failed on a national and on a local level to present a reason for them to be reelected in office over and over again. And their answer is not that they will be more efficient, not that they will be more effective, not that they have a plan. Their answer is, well, you're the problem because you're asking a question. Questions that should be asked, questions that are important to ask, that are vital to our confidence in our government. That's their answer. That's your choice. That's what the 2022 midterm is about. And I predict that most Americans, I believe that somewhere around 63 to 68% of all the votes counted in the nation will be red. They will be Republicans. We're going to see a sea change. I believe that we will see somewhere around 27 to 29 governors that will be elected and they will be Republicans. I believe that we're going to see that the House will be somewhere around 235, 237 seats will be Republican, a majority. I believe that we're going to see in the Senate somewhere around 53 seats will go to Republicans. This is a trend that's happening not just in the United States, it's happening overseas as well. We've seen it in Italy. We've seen it in Sweden, Switzerland, and their government. We're seeing that happen in South America. We saw Chile reject the most progressive constitution ever in the world. We are seeing a movement in government after government. People around the world are saying we need to pull back from this progressive mindset because it has failed everywhere, every time that it has been tried, and we need to do better. Maybe you disagree. I've provided you the evidence. I've provided you my mindset on why I think these things are going to happen. Now I want to hear what you have to say. I want to see what you think. Tell me, do you think my predictions are correct? Do you think that Republicans will do better going forward? Do you think Democrats will prevail? And will they prevail because they threaten people on you're a racist if you don't agree, because you're a domestic terrorist if you don't agree, or because of errors in machines in state after state? Do you think that people will have confidence in the results of elections and Democrats are going to cry foul because they're going to lose? I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on all of this, even though I believe that we have the most secure and effective elections ever, just like YouTube and social media absolutely mandate that I must say. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you'll be well. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.